viewers, welcome to yet another episode of Kashmir 360 Degrees. Today we have with us Barrister Bashani, a broadcaster, lawyer, writer based in Canada and of Kashmir origin from the Pakistan side of occupied Kashmir. He has hosted some popular TV shows like The Third Point on TAG TV and Friday Night on Ravel TV. He's also Secretary General of Advocates International. Welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you.
So over the years, numerous reasons have been cited as root causes of the Kashmir dispute. So, for example, in the Indian side of Kashmir, it was told that Sayyid Salahuddin lost the elections in 1989 in Kashmir. So he took up an armed struggle to revolt against the Indian government. But since you originally belonged to POK, tell us what was the reason that the people of POK supported this armed struggle? Is it Hindu hatred, as the Kashmir pundits claim?
Well, first of all, this whole thing has to be seen in historical context, because it's not just one reason that one person decided to take arms or why the whole segment of population is doing one thing. From the Pakistani side of Kashmir, some of the people, when you say that why people supported this, that's not correct. It's not the people who supported this. It was a very microscopic segment of population who supported the militancy or who were part and parcel of that process for a while. So let's make it two different things. To make it clear, first of all, in Jammu and Kashmir, for example, Ali Gilani or that kind of people who decided to take the arms, that was not the only reason that there was rigging in the election or they did not like the election result and all of a sudden they just decided to fight for their rights and to take the arms. I think there were multiple reasons, and one of the most important reason was what was happening there or had just happened in Afghanistan at that point of time, and specifically 1988-89 when the militancy started there. In my opinion, it was a kind of a joint project for the Pakistani military establishment, for all those Jihadi forces who were activated through international attempts to fight in Afghanistan against the Soviet Union, and their connection with the pro-militant people or pro-militant elements in the Pakistani part of Kashmir. So they all got together and they decided to take the arms. And this kind of election process, rigging or unfair election or kind of interference in Jammu and Kashmir was just a factor which they were in position to exploit that. And because of their situation, the element like Ali Gilani and the other militancy, they decided to get help from them and they decided to get supported by them financially and militarily. So if you just put one statement that, okay, there was an election and it was not good and therefore there was a militancy, that will be too simplistic the answer to this complex question of why militancy in the first place took hold of the society and why so many people they came into it. For example, only one faction, this is led by Sayyid Ali Gilani or his associates. It was just one section who was previously taking part in the election, and in all election they had the objection on the election process or the outcome of that. Many times they were elected, Ali Gilani himself, and he had been part and parcel of the Indian constitutional process like parliament. He has been sitting in the parliament for so long, And for the election in Jammu and Kashmir, everybody believes that in all and every election there was some kind of rigging. So it's not just a rigging or interference which led them to take the arms against the state. I think it was foreign intervention, and foreign intervention of all kind. It could be from the Pakistan intelligence agencies, it could be from the militant and extremist element sitting in Pakistan, enjoying the shelter and facilitation from the officials. And it could be some kind of people like Ali Gilani and others in the valley who became the part and parcel of this process.
Okay. So 30 years on today, the people of POK find themselves struggling with the Pakistani government for basic rights and basic utilities. That includes political rights, that includes the right to development, that includes even basic utilities like flour, wheat flour. I'm talking about like electricity, like subsidies in education, all these things that they were promised, but they still seem to be struggling with their basic rights with the Pakistani government. So while on the other side, in Indian Kashmir, people have moved on from the former Azadi narrative. But in POK, people still talk about referendum, which you have explicitly and articulately expressed many times that it's an outdated theory. And this entire United Nations mandate theory is very outdated, and it was in the 1940s. And the United Nations brought their team to Pakistan and to India, that spoke to the parties, spoke to the stakeholders, and could come out with no solution. So it's basically an outdated and unsuccessful theory. So, but yet the people of POK seem to be, aspiring for a referendum. Is that a way to escape from the Pakistani regime, you think?
I think to correctly put this matter into the context, I believe that people of Pakistani side of Kashmir, what they are doing today is asking for their fundamental rights in the first place, and at the same time, what you call it utilities is the part of the public demand. But that doesn't mean they are doing something like this today. I think is happening, and we can see it happening because of the social media and because of the alternate ways and means of communication, which we did not have before. People of the Pakistani part of Kashmir, they always, since 1947, they always have been suffering from these kind of problems, and they always have been fighting for these kind of utilities and demands. But the thing was that it was not so open because it was very, very controlled, mainly print media, which was heavily controlled by the local administration as well as from the government of Pakistan. So we thought that everything is okay, but that was not okay, because basically what has changed, that like 20 or 35 years ago, why the wheat flour was not an issue, because most of the people, they were doing their own farming, they were growing their own grains, and there was a different kind of economy with lesser population, and people, they were actually producing their own means to live. And on top of that, there were some subsidies to sustain that situation. But despite that, there was a lot of unrest in that population because of absence of their democratic rights or fundamental rights. If you see from 1947 up till 1970, there was no constitution or any kind of constitutional arrangement between the people of Azad Kashmir and their government, or the people of that territory and the government of Pakistan. There was no formal constitutional arrangement. In 1970, it was the first time when they put something in place. And after that, it was modified. And nowadays, what we see, the basic document of governance between the people of that territory and between the government is 1974 Act, which you can call it 1974 Constitution. So you can say that from 1947 to 70, a long period of time, people were governed without any constitutional rights or without any legal or political system in place. It was some kind of a what do you call it, a kind of a business affairs instead of constitution. Now, after 1974, when they had constitution, obviously they gave a lot of incentives to the people. One of them was the subsidy, and subsidy is a very common kind of incentive given by different governments to the population who are not able to meet their ends regularly, poor population from rural and areas and things like that. So that was the situation which they have taken back. So therefore, there is a lot of interest. Sorry, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a
So
lot of unrest.
there was a lot of unrest is going on even nowadays in different part of the Pakistani part of Kashmir. So that is not the thing that cannot be connected with the situation in the Jammu Kashmir or other part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Obviously, there is, but right now, what is there in this form, the rallies and agitation and this kind of activities, I believe that most of the time people are taking to the roads because they are asking for fundamental rights, and wheat flour is just something which you see because that is a very popular slogan and people are involved, common people are involved. But most of the people who are organizers of these events, they are asking for the people's right. And people's rights are not just restricted to the wheat flour or the utilities. That is also for the fundamental rights and the old demands like what kind of system there should be. And in some instances, they are
includes
asking,
law and order. It includes justice, I believe,
exactly.
Protection of women, all of that. You know, they are suffering from everything. There's no justice. There's no protection for their women. Protection. There's no human rights situation there. They're even supposed to be signing a bond, a community bond with the Pakistan government, accepting that POK is part of Pakistan before they can actually contest elections. And against the will of the people of Gilgit-Baltistan, that area was actually made into the 7th province of Pakistan. And many more such stories surface from there. So is there any truth to all this?
Well, basically, this is, if you look at that way, then it becomes a very, very complicated issue because, for example, the question of Gilgit-Baltistan, how they are treated, and even they are not made the province of Pakistan as we think. Pakistan actually tried to do that, but even they were not granted that status because Pakistan does not want to give them anything more than what they already have. So despite the fact that to make them a province was in total benefit of Pakistan, but in return what they had to offer, they were not willing to do that. So that is called the total disconnectivity, or you can say disregard of the people's right, no matter if you make them a province or if you turn into an kind of autonomous state, or if you give them some kind of self-rule or whatever. When it comes to the resources to be spent on them, then I think the government of Pakistan and establishment, they say no. And is also happening for a long time in 1974.
Another factor is that the resources of the people of Gilgit-Baltistan are being used. There's development, so-called development happening there with the help of China and its CPEC. And apparently the people themselves are not getting any advantage of these resources of their own, which are being used by the Pakistan government. They're even claiming that the water from their rivers is being channeled to other provinces of Pakistan and they have no drinking water. It's also being used to produce electricity in other parts of Pakistan while they are facing like 20 to 22 hours of load shedding a day. So how true is all that?
Well, if in that sense, obviously is very, very true. And nobody can deny the fact that most of the water coming to Pakistan is coming from the Pakistani side of Kashmir or Gilgit-Baltistan. Most of the dams and the water arrangement in those areas was primarily made to generate electricity which is going directly to Pakistan, and Pakistan is practically running on that energy. But when it comes to return or to give some kind of compensation in return of that resources, then it becomes a problem. For example, in Pakistani part of Azad Kashmir, which you call, right now there are almost like 9 dams running and producing electricity in a very small area on very small part of the rivers. And that electricity, those 9 dams are creating at least minimum of 6 to 7, what you call it, the electricity amount of kilowatt or whatever you discuss it.
Megawatts, I think. Yes.
Yeah, but the people of that territory, they are not getting enough electricity even to get the light or to have their basic needs. For example, we can witness 18 to 20 hours load shedding in some areas. That means practically there is no electricity where the electricity is generated and where the resources of that part of the territory is used to generate the electricity. So practically what happened, that most of the resources are exploited, but not in favor of the population, but it goes to Pakistan. That is true with the Gilgit-Baltistan, for example. Pakistan is taking a huge advantage of that territory by allowing or permitting China to create this network of road and belt. Because of that, they are claiming that they have created 200,000 jobs. They have created a big infrastructure, but practically the people of that area, for example, are not getting any return from the exploitation of their resources. So that is a long tradition. If you look at Pakistan, for example, there are a lot of resources coming from Balochistan. And on top of that is oil and gas and things like that. And Pakistan is practically running. Anyhow, I was concluding that in case of Balochistan, they are getting resources from there in form of gas and electricity, but people of Balochistan, they are complaining since 90s, 50s that they are not getting the gas, or the population around the area where the gas is being explored, and they are not getting their resources. So this is a kind of system which is working there to exploit the resources and not to return anything to the local population. That is true with Balochistan, true with Gilgit-Baltistan, and true with Pakistani part of Kashmir. So that is something which is also another point for the people of those territories to launch different kind of agitations, which you see every single day in the street of those areas.
Nice. Moving on to the resolution part of all this, because we know that the people of POK are suffering immensely, and we believe that the resolution to this dispute between the two countries over Kashmir also has to do a lot with the people of POK. And it apparently seems like if they get relief, a large part of this dispute will be solved. So, since you've keenly drafted resolutions for various think tanks like the American Alliance for Peace in South Asia, can you elaborate how this dispute can actually end? And how will the people of POK get relief?
Well, I'm not sure if that is the case, that because there is a unrest in the Jammu and Kashmir, and that has to do with the unrest of the people of Pakistani side of Kashmir. I think the people of Pakistani side of Kashmir have their own reasons of unrest. And as I said, the main reason is that their resources are exploited and they are not compensated for those resources, and their rights are taken away, their fundamental rights, their civil liberties, and therefore they are unhappy and they are launching agitation on different parts of the territory. As far as their connection with the Jammu Kashmir and the unrest in that part is concerned, they participated in the militancy, as I said before, because they were forced to be the part and parcel of that attack, which was launched by the help of the Pakistani establishment and international militants, including overfighting in Afghanistan and extremist element living within Pakistan and getting shelter and getting the facilities to organize the people. And they took some young people from the Pakistani part of Kashmir, they trained them, they gave them arms, and then they helped them to infiltrate. So that was a specific period of time. Nowadays, what's happening, that the people of Azad Kashmir, they are completely focused on their rights within their territory, which they do not have. For example, minimum rights, for example, right to have a rally, right of expression, freedom of thought, these kind of things. So they are completely focused on their rights. So what I believe, that if the people of the Pakistani part of Kashmir are properly educated, and they will learn that whatever happened in Jammu and Kashmir, that was not in the favor of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and that had also very bad effect on the people living across the border in the Pakistani part of Kashmir. If you can explain this to the people of the Pakistani part of Kashmir, then I think the whole problem can be resolved. Not if the whole problem can be resolved, but it can be addressed very positively, and it will show some results for sure.
Sure. Thank you so much for your insights, Barrister Bashani. So, Barrister Bashani, ladies and gentlemen, he concludes by saying that if the people of POK are made aware how militancy actually destroyed Kashmir, the Indian side of Kashmir, and if they are made aware of how the people of Jammu and Kashmir together fought back against this militancy and on the path of progress and peace, then it's very much possible that they will find the relief that they are trying to get from the Pakistan government. A lot needs to be done to resolve the dispute in South Asia relating to Kashmir. Barrister Bashani has given us some golden words of advice for this. Thank you so much, Barrister Bashani, for being on our show. Thank you so much, dear viewers, for being with us, for watching us, and please stay tuned for more such shows from Kashmir 360 Degrees.